My name is Pam, and I'm a hobbyist woodworker from Athens, Georgia. A few years ago, I saw an article in Fine Woodworking by Megan Fitzpatrick about building a Dutch tool chest. I put it on my back burner, but it looked like it would work well for my small shop hand tool storage. Recently, the same Megan Fitzpatrick from Lost Art Press wrote a book including the history of Dutch tool chests and instructions, plans, and resources for building one. I followed her instructions pretty closely and appreciate all the different methods she presented for getting it done. I chose to build the smaller single bay chest. I was determined to use the wood I had on hand, even though Megan says the one truth is you should use white pine. It's lighter, and this has the potential to be a portable chest. I broke this rule. I was determined to make the chest with the woods I had on hand. I had some pine, a couple of types, some western cedar, eastern red cedar, rainbow poplar, walnut, and cherry. It is a heavy chest when loaded up. I used a circular saw to break down the rough lumber into rough size. I used hand planes to flatten one face and then a portable planer to bring most of the wood to the same thickness. The other pieces were dimensioned by hand. I was worried about the dovetails connecting the somewhat brittle red cedar bottom to the poplar sides, but it went fine. I cut tails first using a dovetail saw, then coping saw and chisels. I used careful coercion to bring them together. The lid was made of 2 pieces of western cedar glued up. I cut the walls of the dados in the sides by hand with a cross-cut saw, chiseled out the waist, and cleaned them up with a router plane. I cut the angle on the sides with a cross-cut saw, cleaned those edges up with the plane. I had to plane a little under bevel on the shelf for a good fit into the dado. I then glued up the dovetails with the shelf in place and clamped it up. I nailed these sides to the shelf with wrought head square-cut nails. Next, I cut the backboards from pine and tongue and grooved them with my tongue and groove plane. I planed an angle on the top piece to match the side angle. I also put a small bead using a Stanley 66 style beading tool on the tongue edge with the intention of them facing the outside. I nailed these backboards on using cut nails, accidentally putting one bead on the inside. I left it, figuring I'd cause too much damage trying to pry it off and fix it. Next, I cut the front panel top edge angle to match the sides. I put a bead on the bottom of the panel and on the top of the bottom lip using the same beading tool. I nailed these on with wrought head square-cut nails with a little splitting on the bead. The fall front door got a rabbet around the edge using a rabbet plane. The lid got the same rabbet around the edge, and then I rounded that over with the block plane. I applied battens to the lid made of poplar with countersunk screws. I put a small curved profile on the front edge of the battens. I made some cherry runners for the bottom and screwed them on. I also cut a small piece of metal can and fit that into the bottom slot for the fall front lock to land on. Inside catches to guide the lock were made of cherry. The lock was made of walnut with the hole drilled for easy removal. Next, I drilled for handle hardware and hinge placement. I painted it with 2 coats of Lexington green from Old Fashioned Milk Paint Company. I buffed it with the gray 3M pad between coats and then applied a soft wax made with Lost Art Press's recipe. Buffed it out with the gray pad, waited about 15 minutes, and then wiped it off with t-shirt material until dry. It looks okay, but the paint job is not great, a little splotchy. Maybe I could have sanded the last coat out better and applied a third. Who knows, I'm happy enough with it and it looks okay. Hardware was then attached. I made an inner tool rack from cherry with cherry spacers for planes and a small sawtill. I made wet molded leather holders for my block planes and nailed those in. I will tweak the storage more, I'm sure. I'd like to put in spacers so chisels can't touch. I'd like to maybe attach a few items to the inner lid. And I'll probably make the mobile base from Megan's book. Right now it's sitting on my saw bench. I've really enjoyed working out of it. I may put a thin drawer in the upper bottom compartment at some point, but I also like the idea of leaving it open for maximum amount of storage when needed.